Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Keith's Boxing Gym Talk. I am your host, KRob216. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Tonight, you know, we're gonna talk about something different. I'm gonna talk about something different. We had an explosive weekend. Terrence Crawford, all-time great, top 5 in my opinion. He just dethroned Canelo Alvarez for the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. In a way, he defended his title successfully. Something else that I want to get into, this man's not even ranked. He's been past his prime. He's not even talked about that much in the boxing world today. But I want to get into the subject of Adrien Broner. But before we get into that, though, I want you guys to like and subscribe. Adrien Broner, he got kicked off the show today. I think it's It Is What It Is podcast with Cameron and Mace. He got kicked off because he kept flirting with one of the co-hosts, and the co-host's boyfriend was there. Cam warned him numerous times, I think twice, and then he had to put him out. I don't like seeing this. The world, they're laughing at him. He's a laughing stock right now. He's laughed at. He goes onto these podcasts and they exploit him. Cam even said it himself, which I thought was, insensitive. Called him a junkie. He didn't want him there. He just wanted him there for entertainment purposes. To me, it's painful to watch seeing somebody that's a 4-division champion, that had all the talent and had all the potential in the world to be something greater than what he is now, to what, what he's known for now. His reputation is just being laughed at. People calling him a has-been. People calling him burnt out. I understand, from my understanding, I think he has a fight scheduled, under Don King's promotion. I know he lost last year to Barrett Cobb. I think if he would have tried a little harder, I think he would have got the victory. Now, what I'm saying is, I just want him to have a better ending to his career. The welterweight, Boots Ennis vacated some titles, and he's about to move up to 154. And I think he has his opportunity to challenge himself at 154 next month, or in the next month or two. There's a lot of titles that's vacated, or if they're not vacated, we got some people that's champions that I think he can beat besides Brian Norman. I think he has a good chance. Maybe Mario Barrios might be too much for him. But Louis Cracker, he just became the IBF welterweight champion this Saturday with a split decision victory over Patty Donovan. Rolly Romero, even though he's coming off a career best win over Ryan Garcia, I just don't think that was Garcia's night. I think he took it for granted. And we've seen Rolly Romero get knocked out twice. We've seen him get knocked out by Pitbull Cruz and Gervonta Davis. I understand that Broner is not in his prime anymore. I understand that, but like I said, the welterweight division is open right now. Like I said, watch Mario Barrios fight. He just had a draw with Manny Pacquiao, 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao, somebody that Adrien Broner has lost to. But, he's not an elite fighter, unless I'm just being honest about that. Louis Cracker, it's nothing special, His biggest win, I think it was like a KO win, or I think it was a unanimous decision victory over Joel Julio. That's his biggest victory. That's his biggest name. Joel Julio, he's been way past his prime, 20 years past his prime. I think that fight with him and Carlos Quintana was in 2005 or 6. So 19, 20 years. He's been way past his prime. After he got beat by Angulo, I said it was over with. And, I'm a person that, I don't like to shit on a person when they're down. I don't want to knock nobody when they're down, or when they're out and when they're doing bad. Adrien Broner really needs some, he needs some discretion. He needs some discipline. He needs some self-control. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like seeing it. Yes, I'm from Ohio. I'm from Cleveland. He's from Cincinnati. But, it was painful to watch seeing that. It was painful seeing him in that interview like a year and a half, 2 years ago, when he was very, very drunk. I know Adrien Broner said he was motivated and stuff like that. I think he made something about he's making a comeback. He was in the gym. I was starting to believe in him and stuff like that. And then this type of stuff happens because you have no self-control, you know. I'm not saying, before y'all go, get on my neck and stuff about some stuff, I'm not saying that he's Hall of Fame worthy. I'm saying he could be talked about in the Hall of Fame, though, if he cleans his act up and he gets a couple wins. Let's say if he wins the championship against, Lewis Cracker or Rolly Romero or something like that. And those are people that I think he can beat if he puts his mind to it, if he trains hard. You know, maybe he can be in talks for that, but it's just like the behavior outside the ring, and I think that's what counts too when you're trying to, be eligible for the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Like I said, this man is a four-weight champion, four-division champion, and it's I feel like it's just you tarnished your career with these losses. You talking all this stuff, and you wasn't bagging it up, making yourself look bad. The things that's happened outside the ring, yeah, you never a drug cheat, you never tested positive for for PEDs, and and in this climate in the boxing world today, you know, I commend him for that. You know, I just don't want to see his story end like that. Yes, I know a lot of the stuff that he did, he's deserved and stuff. I just wish he had more self-control, wish he had more discipline. I just want to see like a better ending to his, his career. They're saying that he's broke, he's down real bad and stuff like that. I don't know the man's financials, I don't know anything about that. I know he had some lawsuits and stuff like that because he did some stuff in, in my hometown in Cleveland, in the flats, with a lady, a sexual assault or something like that, and I'm not justifying his actions, he should have, you got everything that happened, you got everything coming to you for what you did, I don't have no pity for you for you doing that, but at the same time though, it's painful to watch. And that's all I'm saying. It's painful to watch. I'm not laughing at it. It's not funny at all. I just wish he had somebody in his corner. I wish he had somebody. But it just seems like, when the money's gone and stuff like that, and when your fame's gone, and when you're not the top of the food chain, you're not the big talk of the town, the big talk of the, of the US and stuff like that, people walk away from you, man. And because of your behaviors, Broner, like, I don't blame him, I just want to see some humbleness. Just want to see some humbleness. Like I said, you're the four-division champion, and I don't think it's a lot of champions that's today that they're not even three-division champions. Yeah, the Devin Haney's of the world and stuff. Tank Davis's of the world and stuff like that, Yeah, he grabbed some WBA regular belts at 140 and at 130, I guess 135 or something, whatever the case may be. But you're a four-division champion. You tarnish your career with your behavior and your lack of discipline and training in the gym. I just want to see a better ending. That's all I'm saying, man. And, I know Don King doesn't have the power that he used to have. He's not a Bob Arum. He's not an Eddie Hearn or anything like that. I wish it was something done because, a lot of these belt organizations, they don't go by mandatories anyway. If you got money and power, they'll get you a title shot. And I would like to see him in there, like I said, with a Rolly Romero or, or Lewis Cracker or something like that. That's just me, though, man. And that's my time today. I might drop another video. I don't know. I do want to talk about the Tiafimo and the whole Shakur Stevenson thing. But I just want you guys to like and subscribe, man. I thank you guys. And I will talk to you another time.